coordinated, and we'll be looking at, well, one thing I would comment on is if we go ahead with peak period tolling, we're going to study it. We've said we will study and look at it. If peak period tolling is something that we can eventually adopt at the Bridge Commission, that should relieve some congestion during the peak periods and open up better travel for transit.
Yeah. And Steve, as an add-on to that question, do you feel like you have the right type of system, the network that folks are working together to try to solve the problems?
I think so. I know that the Bridge Commission and the city are working very closely on transportation. In fact, we tend to sit on each other's steering committees for various studies. It's quite common. We very often are sharing the cost of study programs. The improvements that we made on the McKay Bridge last year were in conjunction with HRM. There's work going on this year on Fairview Overpass. We're not going to be doing some work. We're going to delay some work on the McKay Bridge so as to minimize the disruption of the traveling public. Our efforts are coordinated.
Yeah. Next question, Steve, is when can we use MacPass for downtown parking? You had referred to the airport parking. This is a little bit of a bigger task, I suppose, with our existing infrastructure.
I could write up an MOU right here. We can, it's the interest for us in reaching out for MacPass for parking is not driven by the desire to make large amounts of money, by the way. What we're looking to do is to increase the utility of MacPass as a device for all of our users so that more people will want to get a MacPass. Out of curiosity, how many people here have a MacPass? Yay! How many people have two? Bonus points. How many people have none? Hold your hands up, please, for a second. Allison, you see that? Okay. You can go online, www.macpass.com. Real easy. Sign up. Away you go.
Steve, the next question. Would business in the downtown be affected by a third bridge? And if so, how?
You know, I specifically didn't talk about what a third bridge would do. And there's a couple of sides to that analysis. You know, a lot of people quickly say we can't handle any more vehicles on the peninsula. There are others who say we don't have any parking for those vehicles. There are parts of the study that we did on the Cross Harbor Needs Assessment that said if you take a look at where people live and where people want to go and you look at the desire lines, that travel on that South End crossing could actually reduce the distance that people are traveling. But mind you, that does play to the automobile. So that's why I focused so much in what I shared with you today, that we need to look at the other options first. So I think that, to answer your question, I think that a third crossing could benefit downtown. But we better make sure that we've got the rest of the system performing as it should before we go that way.
Yeah. And as a follow-up to that, Steve, thinking about where you said the likely place or location of that third bridge would be, is there infrastructure in the south end of Halifax to support the traffic going through there? From a point of view of the footprint and the CN, did you see me positioning there for some words for a second or two? Next question.
No, that's fine. We'll hold up. I got this one beat now. It's stalled long enough to.
I'm buying time, buddy.
No, there's room there. Okay, we talked to the folks from CN, and they were quite receptive and said, yeah, that makes sense. In terms of the connections, there'd be a number of dollars that would have to be spent on the connections. But from what I've seen and from what the folks at Delphi MRC showed us during the study, that third connection really is the missing link that would balance the flow. But that's after we do what we've got to do with transit and the buses and changing the way people travel. You know, I talked about sustainable transportation. In the future, for my family and my family's families and for your family's families, we need to look at making sure that transportation is sustainable. If we don't do that, we're doing a huge injustice. So that's going to be the primary focus.
Yeah, very good. Next question, do you think a transportation authority would work for this city?
Well, it's been proposed. It didn't make it real far so far, but we've stepped up and we're doing that anyway. I spoke about the Strategic Joint Regional Transportation Committee. That is us working together. We have senior level meetings, and then we have folks who really get the work done once we get out of the way. But it's good communications. It's us focusing on what we need for this city, this region, and I think that we're pretty much there now. Very good. People aren't going to let you off this third harbor crossing piece. How would you fund a third harbor crossing? Boy. It's expensive. 1.1 to 1.4 billion, doesn't include land. Our initial thought was that, that's something that would require outside funding. We've never had that in our history. But, if something like that was to occur down the road, ideally if you could go, 1/3, say, federal funding, 1/3 pre-funding, and then we finance the balance of it, that still is not an inexpensive structure or inexpensive toll. But that would be one approach. Yeah, and a follow-up on that one, to fund that type of third harbor crossing, expected tolls running through there if you were to achieve the volume that you would hope to? We haven't taken the time to sit down and do any detailed calculations. That's out there a ways, but it wouldn't be inexpensive. Yeah, good. Next question, Steve. What changes are required to allow for higher than cost recovery tolls on the bridges? That takes a need, and that's, there's two ways. You could privatize us, and somebody could make a profit, take us out from underneath the Utility and Review Board. While we are still as a commission of the provincial government, the Utility and Review Board legislation doesn't permit pre-funding. But in conversation, we've heard that never say never. If the only answer to major infrastructure is pre-funding, we think that we may be able to make a case for it. So, yeah, very fair. Steve, you had talked a lot about the customer service component behind the Bridge Commission. This next question does ask for improving, what is your vision for improving customer service in the next 5 years? Have you adequately covered that? Would you like to comment any further? Well, our folks at MacPass do a wonderful job and continue to strive. They're looking at doing further training. In terms of on the bridges, our customer service, the customer service that you folks who use the bridge day in and day out would see are the commissionaires. Hopefully they serve you well, but hopefully they're not making change for you. They're helping you with some other issue because you already got transponders. But to the other side, taking it out further, because our facilities are virtually at capacity, and I talked about those small incidents causing traffic to back up very quickly, it's people like John Birchall and the Corps commissionaires who are focusing on making sure that their response time is as quick as it can be to help people and move them on so that we minimize the delay to traffic. That's really where we're focusing our customer service today. Yep, very good. And the final question, how receptive is the province to using bridge tolls as a disincentive to driving? I don't know. I haven't asked them. There are people, and sometimes I'm included amongst one of them, that think that ultimately the way that you will affect people's choices when it comes to vehicular travel is through road pricing. The middle of January, and I'm not trying to compare us to parts of the U.S. I know that we've only got 1/10 of their population. But for instance, let's take the 3 states on the West Coast. We're looking at California, Washington, and Oregon. Represents about 50 million people. The chairs of their transportation committees in the middle of January signed a letter that they sent off to Congress asking Congress to take a serious study of VMT as an option, and that's funding their roadway systems through vehicle miles traveled. That essentially means that when you drive your automobile, you pay. The difficulty they have in the U.S. that we're not dealing with here yet is that most of their roadways are funded through gas tax. The people aren't driving as far. That's a good thing. But at the same time, their vehicles are more efficient. While their vehicles are more efficient, they're not using as many gallons of gas, and their revenue is going like this. So their travel is going up, and their revenue's going down, and they've got a big funding gap, and they're in serious trouble, serious trouble. So VMTs are something that they're going to be looking at.
Excellent. That is it, Steve. You're off the hook. Thanks for taking those questions, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to address the audience. We certainly do appreciate it. In appreciation of your time today, the Chamber will be making a donation on your behalf to Alice Housing. So thanks again, Steve. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.